My name is Emily, and I'm 18 years old. I've always dreamed of going to college, and in 4 months, that dream was supposed to come true. My grandparents had set aside a college fund for me years ago, something that would cover all my expenses. I had always felt secure knowing that money was there for my education. One afternoon, I decided to check on the status of the fund. When I asked my parents about it, they told me the money had been invested for my future. However, when I asked for more details, they acted strangely. Curious and a little suspicious, I dug deeper. That's when I found out the truth. My parents had used my college fund to pay off their debts and make risky investments. They hadn't told me, and they kept insisting they were doing what was best for me. I was shocked. I felt betrayed. The money wasn't meant for them, it was supposed to help me get through college. But now, I wasn't sure where my future stood. This was just the beginning of a fight that would change everything. I couldn't believe what I had just discovered. My whole life, I had been told that my grandparents left me a college fund to ensure I could go to school without worrying about money. But now, it felt like everything I had trusted was a lie. I decided I needed to confront my parents. It wasn't going to be easy, but I couldn't stay silent. I waited until we were all together at home that evening. "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you about the college fund," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My parents exchanged a quick glance. Then my mom responded, "We've already told you, Emily. We've been investing it for your future." "I found out the truth," I replied. "You used it to pay off debts and make investments. That's not what the money was for." There was silence. My dad looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. "You don't understand," he finally said. "We did it to secure your future. It's all going to pay off." I shook my head. "I don't care about your investments. I care about going to college, and now I don't know how I'll pay for it. You didn't even tell me about any of this." My mom sighed. "We were trying to do what's best for you, Emily. You don't know what we've been dealing with." I felt a wave of anger. What's best for me would have been you keeping the money safe for my education. You betrayed my trust. They were quiet now, and for the first time, I could see the guilt on their faces. But it didn't make me feel better. "I want that money back," I demanded. "I want my college fund returned to me. It's mine, and you had no right to touch it." My dad stood up, looking frustrated. "You don't understand. It's too late to undo what's been done." "I'm not asking for your excuses," I said, fighting back tears. "I just want what's mine." They remained silent, and I realized this wasn't going to be an easy fight. But I wasn't going to back down. I would do whatever it took to reclaim my future. The next few days were filled with tension. I couldn't stop thinking about what my parents had done. The anger and betrayal kept swirling in my head. Every time I saw them, I couldn't look at them the same way anymore. The trust one had in them was shattered, and nothing they said could fix it. I spent hours researching my options. I couldn't just let this go, but I wasn't sure what to do next. I considered talking to a lawyer, but the thought of taking legal action against my own parents made me sick. I didn't want to ruin our family, but I couldn't let them get away with using my future as a bargaining chip. That's when I reached out to my Uncle Greg. He had always been the family member I trusted most. He wasn't like my parents, who were always so focused on appearances and money. Uncle Greg had a way of being direct and honest with me, and I knew I needed his help. I called him that evening, my voice shaky as I explained what had happened. "Uncle Greg, I don't know what to do. They took my college fund, and I don't know how to get it back. They're saying they invested it for me, but it's gone. I don't even know if I'll be able to go to college now." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but firm. Emily, I'm sorry that you're going through this. You have every right to be angry. What they did was wrong, and I'm going to help you make sure they don't get away with it. His words gave me a little hope, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly stressed and unsure of what would happen next. I'll help you find a lawyer, and we'll see what options you have, Uncle Greg continued. You deserve to have the money your grandparents set aside for you, and we'll figure out how to get it back. For the first time in days, I felt a sense of relief. Uncle Greg wasn't just offering advice, he was going to help me take action. It wasn't going to be easy, and it might take time, but I wasn't alone in this fight. I can't thank you enough, Uncle Greg, I said, my voice breaking. I don't know what I'd do without you. Your family, Emily. We'll get through this together, he reassured me. After hanging up, I felt more determined than ever. This wasn't just about the money, it was about standing up for myself, my future, and the promises my grandparents had made to me. I couldn't let anyone take that away. The next few days blurred together as I threw myself into research. I spent hours at my computer, searching for lawyers who could help me fight for my college fund. It felt like an impossible mountain to climb, but with Uncle Greg's unwavering support, I started to believe I could do it. Uncle Greg had already made a few calls on my behalf. He found a lawyer who specialized in family trust disputes, and we scheduled a meeting. The lawyer's office was in a tall, gleaming building downtown, the kind of place that made me feel small and out of place. I had never been in a professional office like this before, but Uncle Greg reassured me with a firm hand on my shoulder. You're doing the right thing, Emily. Remember, you're not alone in this, he said as we walked through the door. We were greeted by the lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Miss Daniels. She exuded confidence with her no-nonsense demeanor, and I could tell immediately that she was someone who took results seriously. After listening carefully to my story, Miss Daniels sat back and took a moment to think. Finally, she spoke. I'm sorry you're going through this, she said, her tone measured but empathetic. From what you've told me, this is a clear case of financial mismanagement. Your parents were entrusted with funds specifically for your education, and they used them for something else. That's a violation of the trust's purpose, and we have a strong case to pursue legal action. Hearing those words felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. For the first time in weeks, someone truly understood the gravity of what had happened. But, she added, this won't be an easy road. Your parents may try to resolve this privately, offer to repay you over time, or pressure you to drop the case altogether. You'll need to stand firm because you're absolutely within your rights to fight for what is yours. I just want my money back, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I won't settle for less. Ms. Daniels nodded, her expression approving. We'll start by sending a formal demand letter to your parents, requesting the immediate return of the funds. If they refuse, we'll escalate. I'll also investigate their financial assets to determine what can be recovered. This process may take time, but I'll guide you through every step. As she outlined the plan, a mix of nerves and determination settled over me. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. My parents weren't the type to back down, especially when it came to money. But I couldn't let them take away my future without a fight. When the meeting ended, I felt like I had a concrete plan. Miss Daniels was prepared to take action, and Uncle Greg promised to be by my side no matter what. Outside the office, Uncle Greg turned to me with a reassuring smile. You did great, Emily. I know this is tough, but you're doing what needs to be done. We're going to make sure you get what's rightfully yours. His words comforted me, though the weight of the situation still hung heavily over me. I knew I'd soon have to face my parents again, and this time, there was no avoiding the confrontation. A week later, the demand letter was delivered to my parents. I wasn't there to witness their reaction, but I could easily imagine it: shock, anger, disbelief. That evening, my mom called me, her voice sharp as a blade. "Emily, what is this?" she snapped as soon as I picked up. "A lawyer. Are you serious?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm serious, Mom. You used my college fund without telling me. That money was meant for my future, and I want it back." There was a long, tense silence on the other end of the line. Finally, she said, "We did what we had to do, Emily. You don't understand the kind of pressure we were under. We didn't take that money lightly." "You didn't take it lightly," I replied, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You didn't even tell me. You let me believe my education was secure, and now it's not. How is that fair?" "You're being unreasonable," she said defensively. "We're your parents. We've always made sacrifices for you, and now you're turning against us." Her words stung, but they only fueled my resolve. "This isn't about turning against you," I said, my voice firm. "This is about doing what's right. You made a decision that wasn't yours to make, and now I'm the one paying the price for it." Her silence was deafening, and I could feel the tension building between us like a wall. I didn't know what their next move would be, but I was ready to fight for what was mine, no matter how hard it got. My dad took the phone then, his voice calm but dismissive. "Emily, let's not blow this out of proportion. We can work something out. There's no need to involve lawyers in this." "I already have, Dad," I said, my tone firm. "And I'm not backing down. If you really want to fix this, then give me back my money." There was a pause before he admitted, his voice strained, "We don't have it right now. But we can pay you back over time." "That's not good enough," I replied, frustration tightening my throat. "I need the money for college, not years from now." The conversation ended in deadlock, with no resolution in sight. My parents were angry, but I was more determined than ever. They didn't seem to understand the depth of their betrayal, and that only strengthened my resolve. Later that night, I sat in my room, staring blankly at my phone. Uncle Greg had texted earlier to check in, but I hadn't responded yet. I knew he'd want to know how the call went, and I didn't have the energy to relive it. Instead, I opened my laptop and began typing. Writing had become my outlet, a way to process everything I was feeling. I wrote about the hurt, the anger, and the unshakable determination I had to move forward. I wasn't going to let their choices derail my dreams. As I typed, a thought surfaced that made my stomach tighten. What if my parents weren't being entirely truthful about why they took the money? Their vagueness during the call suddenly felt intentional. What weren't they telling me? Fueled by a mix of suspicion and determination, I decided to dig deeper. I spent the next few hours scouring public records online, looking for any clue about their financial situation. I didn't know what I was searching for exactly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. It was time to take control, not just of my future, but of the truth. When the mediation finally concluded weeks later, the result exceeded my expectations. My parents agreed to return the full amount of my college fund within a week. Their lawyer explained that the money had been tied up in investments, but the legal pressure from Uncle Greg and the ironclad terms of my grandparents' trust left them with no choice but to liquidate their holdings. As I left the meeting, I didn't feel victorious, just relieved. My parents offered apologies, but their words felt hollow. They promised to work on repairing our relationship, but I knew trust would take time, if it could ever be rebuilt. Uncle Greg stood by my side, his presence steady and reassuring. "You handled yourself well," he said as we walked to his car. "Your grandparents would be proud." With the funds restored, I wasted no time enrolling in my dream college. The financial burden lifted, I could finally focus on my studies and my future. I majored in business administration, driven by a new sense of purpose, to help others navigate financial challenges with transparency and integrity. ISA reached out a few weeks later, apologizing for unknowingly benefiting from the misused funds. She explained that she hadn't realized where the money had come from and offered to support me however she could. While our relationship remained strained, I appreciated her effort and agreed to work on rebuilding our connection, one step at a time. Over the next few years, I thrived. I graduated with honors and landed a job at a respected financial firm, where I specialized in ethical wealth management. The experience with my family's deception shaped my values, and I made it my mission to promote fairness and accountability in finance. By the time I turned 25, I had purchased a modest apartment and paid off the remainder of my student expenses. My grandparents' legacy, combined with my hard work and resilience, had laid the foundation for a future filled with opportunity. One evening, as I stood on the balcony of my apartment, looking out over the city lights, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. The struggles I had faced hadn't broken me, they had made me stronger, more independent, and more determined than ever. My relationship with my parents remained distant, but I found peace in the support of Uncle Greg, my friends, and the life I was building for myself. I had reclaimed not only my college fund but also my agency and my future. The road had been difficult, but I emerged from it with clarity and confidence. My grandparents' faith in me had not been misplaced, and I vowed to honor their memory in everything I did. The past was behind me, and the future was mine to create. For the first time in years, I felt free.